Just within this past week, millions of people in the Midwest and Northeast have experienced a major winter storm. And while storms like this are almost a guarantee during this time of year, sometimes they end up being a whole lot worse than anybody ever expected. That's exactly what happened in February of 2021 when a historic ice storm froze the entire state of Texas. In this video, we're going to talk about why the 2021 Texas ice storm was so catastrophic. We'll cover why the state's infrastructure completely fell apart, stories of real people who lived through it, like me, and most importantly, we'll talk about what we can all do to be ready for the next big winter storm. The 2021 Texas ice storm, also known as Winter Storm Uri, began on Thursday, February 11th, 2021, and by the 15th, almost every county in Texas was under a winter storm warning. And while we are used to dealing with some cold here in Texas, we weren't ready for this. On the morning of February 16th, Dallas hit -2 degrees Fahrenheit, the lowest temperature recorded there since 1949, and Austin dropped to 6 degrees, which was the coldest there in decades. And those temperatures weren't just limited to the interior of the state. Houston got down to 13 degrees, and Brownsville, which is about as far south as you can get, hit 22 degrees. Then on top of all that, those temperatures stuck around for a very long time. The Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex stayed at or below freezing for 139 hours straight, which is almost 6 days. Waco had it even worse at 205 consecutive hours below freezing. And as somebody who's lived in Texas their entire life, I can tell you for certain that that is not normal here. And it wasn't just cold either. On February 14th and 15th, a major snowstorm dumped between 5 and 8 inches of snow in Dallas and Austin. I know that may not seem like a lot to you folks up north, but in an area that isn't equipped to deal with it, it can be a huge problem. Then on top of the snow, ice-covered roads and power lines across the entire state, which caused massive travel and power issues. So what made this storm so much worse than the average Texas cold front? It all comes down to something called the polar vortex. Normally, that really cold air likes to hang out up north, near the Arctic, but thanks to a breakdown in the jet stream, that cold air broke free and dropped all the way down here and then stayed around for around 10 days. It's also important to understand that Texas is built to handle heat, not extreme cold. Our homes, including the one that I'm sitting in right now, are designed to keep AC inside, not hold in warmth. A lot of the houses have pipes running through attics or exterior walls, which is okay during mild winters, but it's terrible when it gets that cold. Then our roads aren't salted or sanded the way that they are up north. And as the cold stretched on, it exposed just how unprepared we really were. Frozen pipes burst, roads shut down, and the power grid was literally 4 minutes and 37 seconds away from a total complete collapse. When you've got nearly 30 million people over such a huge area all needing heat and water at the exact same time, it's a recipe for a major disaster, and as you'll see in the next section, that's exactly what happened. But before we get into all that, I want to talk about a problem that's only gonna get worse for all of us, and that's threats to our online security. If you've ever looked yourself up online, you were probably shocked and appalled by how much of your personal information is out there. Anyone with the ability to operate a keyboard can see your name, address, phone number, and even the names of your family members. Scammers, identity thieves, and even stalkers could use all that information to make your life totally miserable. But the good news is that you do have the right and the ability to protect your information. I've been trusting Delete Me to help protect my online privacy for nearly 2 years now, and I'd like to thank them for sponsoring us today. Delete Me is a hands-free subscription service that'll reach out to hundreds of different data brokers and people search sites and request to have your information removed. They've been doing this for over 15 years now, and they were even named as the #1 data removal site by Wirecutter. Delete Me is used by public figures, including content creators like myself to help keep their information out of the wrong hands. And as somebody that has an online presence, it's really important for me to have a service like this. They've helped remove my information from numerous different websites, and they also help make sure that it doesn't show back up later on. I don't even know how long it would have taken me to have done all of that mess on my own. I think that they're an excellent service to use, and if you want to check them out, then go to joindeleteme.com/PREPPERTV and use the code PREPPERTV at checkout to get 20% off of your order. Now, one thing that's unique about Texas is that it has its own power grid. We're not tied into the main East and West Coast grids like most of the other states are, and that was mainly done to avoid federal regulations. Folks in Texas don't really like being told what to do, and when the Federal Power Act gave the U.S. government authority over interstate power lines back in 1935, our leaders at the time started working on ways around it, and we've had our own grid ever since. The Electric Reliability Council of Texas, better known as ERCOT, manages the grid for about 90% of the state, and normally everything works fine, but the Texas grid was never really built to handle days on end of single-digit temps and solid ice. So when this storm hit, power plants started dropping like flies. Natural gas plants froze up, and some coal and even nuclear plants went offline too. A lot of wind turbines iced over as well. The whole system just wasn't designed or required by law to withstand that kind of cold. And all of that doesn't even take into account damage to power lines from ice and fallen tree limbs, which there were a lot of, especially in the eastern part of the state. Most people think of Texas as like this big, huge desert or never-ending grassy plains, but the area from Houston all the way to our border with like Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma is essentially one big honkin' forest. A lot of those trees are pine, and those tend to shed branches very easily, like when they're weighed down with a ton of snow and ice. But here's where it gets even worse. Because the grid's isolated, Texas couldn't just buy electricity from other states. So when our plants pooped the bed, there wasn't really a backup plan. ERCOT started what were supposed to be rolling blackouts to try and avoid a total collapse. The problem was those rolling blackouts quickly turned into multi-day outages for a lot of people. Some neighborhoods sat in the dark and cold for like 3, 4, or even 5 days straight because once the blackouts began, the system couldn't handle rolling them over. So that meant that whoever lost power first was just unlucky and stuck that way. Then there were also widespread water issues. Just like everything else, water treatment plants and pump stations rely on electricity to operate, and if they don't have it, then they can't do their job. When you combine that with the fact that we had days of hard freeze conditions with pipes bursting, in apartments, homes, and businesses, things got really bad. Some cities like Austin and Houston lost water pressure entirely and had to issue boil water notices. Others had water, but nowhere near enough for everybody's needs. My town, for example, had their water facilities went offline and multiple water mains burst. So that meant that we couldn't treat water, and the treated water that we did have stored up in towers was being depleted much faster than it should have been because it was just leaking out everywhere. While we only lost water for a few hours here at our house, we were under a boil water notice for probably around a week afterward. And the pain wasn't spread out evenly either. Places like El Paso, which isn't on the ERCOT grid, had invested in winterizing their equipment after a 2011 cold snap, and they fared much better because of it. While most of Texas was scrambling, El Paso kept the lights on for all but a few people. Meanwhile, the big population centers like Dallas-Fort Worth, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio were hit the hardest with cascading failures for electricity, heat, and water. And when you add in a lack of sand and salt for the roads, grocery shelves being ransacked, and critical services like hospitals and fire departments being stretched to their breaking point, all of that just turned into a horrible, perfect storm. And when you hear all this, it's easy to forget that it was real people and real families that had to live through it. And if you're like me and you actually experienced it firsthand, then you know that this isn't an event that you're ever going to forget. At the height of the storm, nearly 5 million Texans were without electricity at the same time. There were folks whose living rooms got down to the low 30s with ice forming on the inside of their windows. Some people even posted photos of icicles hanging down from their ceiling fans. It really kind of looked like something out of the movie Day After Tomorrow, which was kind of crazy. And when the pipes froze and burst, people couldn't even get a glass of water or flush a toilet. A lot of folks had to melt snow from their yard. Like, I remember my best friend calling when all this was going on, and that's what he and his wife had to do to flush their toilet. Central Texas, especially places like Austin and Waco, had days on end without power or water, and finding a plumber to help fix stuff was next to impossible. Houston and the Gulf Coast had over 1 million people without power, with grocery stores picked clean and folks lining up at fire stations just to get some clean drinking water. Then traffic was another issue. North Texas saw a massive 133-car pileup on I-35 in Fort Worth, which was caused by black ice. It was a horrible reminder of how dangerous travel can get when people aren't ready for these conditions. And when you combine the ice on the road with the simple fact that most Texans, myself included, don't really know how to drive in winter weather, things got really bad really fast. From roadway fatalities and other causes, official counts put the death toll at over 240, but some believe that the real number was even higher than that. Some died of hypothermia in their own homes, others lost their lives to carbon monoxide poisoning while they were trying to stay warm with generators or grills indoors. Hospitals were overwhelmed, and vulnerable folks like the elderly, people with certain disabilities, or those needing medical equipment were hit the hardest. But even in all this, Texans stepped up for each other as much as they possibly could. Churches and community centers opened up as warming shelters, neighbors shared whatever food and water that they could. But for a lot of families, it was a big wake-up call. When the grid fails, you better have a plan because help may be several days off. For me, it was sort of the catalyst for getting more serious about preparedness and then even starting this channel. Up until that point, I was interested in prepper stuff, but if I'm being honest, I was more of a gun and ammo collector. The ice storm showed me that my family needed more food in the pantry, ways to cook off-grid, and also ways to stay warm and generate power when the grid fails. Then the 2021 Texas ice storm also had a huge impact on the Texas economy. Uri ended up costing the state somewhere between $80 and $130 billion, which puts it in the same league as some major hurricanes, and those costs came from a lot of different places. First, there were millions of homes and apartments with busted pipes. Water damage ruined drywall, flooring, and anything else it touched. Insurance companies were swamped with tons of claims, tens of billions in just home repairs alone. And that's not even counting all the folks who didn't have the right coverage or any coverage at all. But it didn't stop with homes, businesses, everything from your corner stores all the way to massive manufacturing plants took big hits too. Some factories lost power for days, had to shut down, and ended up losing quite a bit of inventory. Grocery stores were stripped bare, and hospitals in some cases had to evacuate patients because their backup power and water supplies didn't hold out. Then Uri wreaked havoc on Texas agriculture. Down in the Rio Grande Valley, citrus growers lost a significant portion of their crop overnight, which cost them millions of dollars. Ranchers up north lost cattle and livestock to the cold. Vegetable farms, and even the big commercial chicken operations all suffered massive losses too. And since Texas has its own energy market, when demand for electricity spiked and the supply hit rock bottom, wholesale prices went crazy. Some retail electricity providers went totally out of business, and a few unlucky customers saw power bills in the thousands of dollars just for a single week. The state did eventually step in to limit the damage, but folks with variable rate energy plans took a big hit. Then cities like Houston had numerous water main breaks and damage to other parts of their infrastructure. So between damaged homes and businesses, lost crops, and grid failures, the 2021 Texas ice storm was a financial nightmare for Texas and its people. It left a lot of folks wondering, how in the world did things get this bad, and is anybody actually going to do anything to fix it? The bottom line is that a lot of what went wrong could have been prevented, and the people in charge knew about those issues long before Uri ever hit. Back in 2011, Texas had a pretty bad cold snap. Power plants froze, rolling blackouts were needed, and some experts suggested winterizing the grid. And some places did listen, like El Paso, but most of the state didn't really do all that much, and the reason for that was the same reason that we have crummy infrastructure pretty much everywhere in this country: money. Utility companies didn't want to pay for upgrades to deal with an event that only happens once every few decades, and there were no statewide rules forcing them to take care of that. Then on top of that, the Texas grid is isolated from the rest of the country. That means that when things get tough, we can't just import a bunch of extra power from, say, Louisiana or Oklahoma. It's a point of pride for a lot of us here, but it can be a big vulnerability as well. Then you've got the regulatory side. ERCOT, the folks who manage the grid, forecasted demand way too low, didn't take the worst case scenario seriously, and by the time things got ugly, it was too late to do anything about it. But since Uri, there has been a big push to change things. The state passed some laws requiring utilities to begin winterizing their critical infrastructure. They're supposed to be doing things like adding backup power, weatherproofing vital pieces of equipment, and making sure that this kind of failure doesn't happen again. ERCOT's been under the microscope quite a bit after this, with new leadership and more oversight. But even though people are trying to prevent this from happening again in the future, we're not really safe from it yet. Another storm like Uri could still cause big problems, especially if those upgrades aren't completed yet, or if those laws requiring them aren't enforced. So what can we do to protect ourselves from events like the 2021 Texas ice storm? First off, build up your basic supplies. Aim for at least a week's worth of food and water for everybody in your family at a bare minimum. For water, that's 1 gallon of water per person per day. And don't just stash bottled water. Fill up bathtubs and other containers when a hard freeze or storm is on the way. And also try to stock food that you don't have to cook, because if the power's out, then your electric microwave and stove are going to be totally useless, and using things like grills and camp stoves outside may not be possible, or at the very least something that you might not want to do. Second, keep your home as winter ready as possible. Pipe insulation is cheap insurance. Just put it on every exposed pipe that you can. Know how to shut off your water main in case a pipe bursts, and also have things like heavy blankets, sleeping bags, and plenty of warm clothing on hand, even if you think that you're never going to need them living in a place like Texas. Then backup lighting and heat are essential. Have a stash of LED lanterns, flashlights, and extra batteries. Candles and oil lamps are pretty old school, but they can be useful in certain emergencies. For heat, look into a safe, indoor-rated propane heater, or at least know how to seal off one room to keep everybody warm with body heat and blankets. Also, don't forget about carbon monoxide and fire safety, like never run a generator or grill indoors, and make sure that you have working fire alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, fire extinguishers, and also fire blankets. And then finally, check in on your neighbors, especially those who are a little bit older or have certain medical needs. Be prepared to help them out if they need it. The 2021 Texas ice storm proved that you can't always predict what's coming, but you can do things to be ready for it. And on that topic, if you want to see things that every prepper should do before December 21st, then click here. Or if you want to see 10 survival items that most people never even think of, then click here. Once again, I'd like to thank Delete Me for sponsoring us today. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.